Welcome back. One thing I've never tried in all my years of cooking and preparing things in the kitchen is to jar my own marinara sauce or sauce of any kind. I've never canned anything, I've never jarred anything, so I thought I would give that a try. And as you can see, we've got fresh garden laid out all over here. Now some of these things aren't for that. They just happen to be cleaned up and resting here on the towel, like these great pickles, these cucumbers, some fresh jalapenos. We're going to use these to make, my wife, rather, Jessica is going to use these to make salsa. She loves to do that. But all these fresh herbs are going to be a part of our marinara, and we've got Greek oregano here, thyme, sweet marjoram, fresh basil, all kinds of fresh basil, and Italian parsley. So all these things, they're going to end up into the sauce. And I'm gonna call it a sauce. I've been reading some articles on the internet lately about sauce versus marinara versus gravy. I've even seen people get into arguments about this stuff. But I think we can all agree that it's called a sauce, and we can all agree to eat it when it's done, and that's the real point here. So what we're gonna do is take a lot of these tomatoes, mostly the Romas, and I'm gonna score these right down the top, and it's gonna look like this, in a crisscross pattern. And what we're going to do is boil these for about 30 seconds, and the flesh is going to start to peel back, and we're going to drop them into a cold bath, a nice water bath, and then take them out and peel all these tomatoes and cut them in half. From there, they're going to go into a pot with olive oil, red wine, salt and pepper, various things that I want to make this taste good, fresh garlic, onion. We'll chop all this up. We're going to add it in, and we're just going to let it simmer for as long as our heart desires. This is an evening project for me, so probably only about 45 minutes at max. Some people would do this all day long. It's really up to you and how you want those flavors to come together, but the one thing I'm going to do to speed that up a little bit is add some brown sugar to it and tie everything together and let the sugar meld into everything, and that's a pretty well-known way to get some flavors to blend a little more quickly. So I'm just going to go through every single one of these, place a score. So the boiling of the tomatoes obviously is going to loosen the flesh, and then you pop them right into cold water. So I've got an ice bath waiting, a big huge metal bowl with ice cubes and water in it, and 30 seconds is all these are going to need in the boiling water, and then you pull them out and put them in the cold water, and it immediately will start to loosen everything up. It's kind of like steaming a pepper. I don't know if you've ever steamed a pepper or put peppers on grill like New Mexico green chilies and then taken them off, and you can either put them in a cold water bath, or you can steam them inside of a brown paper bag. I've done both. Both methods work, but for these we're going to go, basically we want to stop the cooking process on these right away while they're in the cold water, so it serves two purposes. So for the sake of demonstration here, this is what they should look like. I don't know how well you can see, but I think you can see that is starting to peel, and that's pretty much what you want. This was 30 seconds. This one's coming right off. You see how that comes off? So now into the cold water they go. Okay, so here we are. I've got this whole pile of tomatoes, and you can see the skin is just coming right off. So this is what you want, and I think I'm just probably going to set the skin aside into these bowls. But really what we want to do here is chop off the end. So you're going to discard that, and we're going to cut these in half. Now, I understand a lot of people will seed them or squeeze them out. I'm not going to do that. I've got a bowl over here. I like all that stuff. I'm going to take the skin off because you don't want that in your marinara sauce, but I think what you do want is everything else. It's going to provide substance, it's going to provide quantity, and when you boil things, obviously you can lose some of it through the evaporation of the water that's in there. So to me, I like to keep that stuff. It's all good flavor. This is all fresh, right out of the garden, not purchased at a store. I'm getting there. It's a lot of work cutting all this stuff up, but you need to remove the skin. I mean, if you left the skin on, it would be like leaving grape skin in your fine wine. You don't want to drink that, So we're just going to make sure that all of this comes off, and it slides right off. You can probably see this. I mean, it's just coming right off. It's just the end. You've got the piece of the tomato on the end that's a little bit of a pain, so it causes a slowdown here. You need to cut that off, but if it weren't for that, these things would glide right off, just like if you steamed peppers. It's an easy process. You just need to dedicate some time to it. But quite frankly, this is the stuff that I really enjoy. Cooking, for a lot of people, is work. I get that. It's a lot of cleanup. It's a lot of mess. But for me, I work in front of a computer all day long. So this is my downtime. I typically like to pour a little whiskey or scotch and put on some jazz. In the case of today, the volume's down so you don't hear it, but I've got the Olympics running in the background because that's a unique thing, so we might as well catch that since it's on. But this is really a creative outlet for me. It's just a time to learn, time to do something different. I feel like it keeps my brain going. I'm not reading about social media trends or Google's algorithm or something like that. I just get to sit back, I get to cook, and I get to do something that I love. So the next step in this process is actually food processing the tomatoes. Now, I did that, and here's what they look like, but I didn't show you that step because, listen, if you need me to show you how to food process something on here, we might need to have a different discussion. You probably shouldn't be jarring marinara sauce, but that's what I did. I put this through a food processor. It's real nice. It's semi-chunky. I think that's what you need to do. So we're just going to set that aside. So next, you can see I've got onions here. We've got garlic. These things are going to get chopped up. Look at the size of this elephant garlic. I got this at the local grocery store here. It's not even from a farmer's market or anything, but this stuff is. I don't know if you can really tell how big this is, but this is a massive chunk of garlic. So how do I cut my garlic? I mean, I just take a knife and I crack this stuff down. This peels right off when you break the garlic up like that, and we're just going to get it into a place where we can cut through all this stuff, and I've got my fresh herbs back here, and that's all going to go in the pot, or at least a portion of this is going to go in the pot, but we've got our garlic here, so set this stuff aside. I like to do my garlic like this. We're just going to put some cuts through these. So we can just fly through here and cut these up. Now the onion portion of this, I mean, you want to dice the onion. Unless you really like your sauce thick and chunky, you can leave it bigger, but for me, I feel like not minced, but pretty close is the way to go. So we've got that. I like to put a line through it, and then you just fly right through. Look at those minces. They're so nice and beautiful. They're all the right size. This is the way to cut an onion. So I don't know if you heard that. That was my four-legged son, Vinny the Moocher, barking in the background. He likes to make noise whenever we're trying to do something that requires no noise, but that's the way it is with dogs, I suppose. At any rate, my onions, my garlic, all this stuff goes in here. So it's going into this pan. The olive oil is in there, and so I'm going to put this back on the stove. We're going to let that heat up a little bit. So that's already starting to kick back up. You can probably hear it in the background. And the next step here is to add some wine to this. Now, I don't want any judgment here, guys. I mean, we're making marinara sauce, so this big jug of Paisano is just fine for this. You do not need a $35 wine to cook down, but this is going to give it some extra flavor. It also has sugar in it, so when I talked about brown sugar in the beginning, we only need a tablespoon or two of that, because all these sugars are going to help refine the sauce very quickly, and we don't have to cook it all day long in order to blend those flavors, but we are going to put a little bit of wine into this thing, and so here we are. You can see that has cooked down quite a bit, and it's really nice. So at this point, we're just going to take a little bit of this wine, and we're going to pour it in there. And I'm going to put this back on the burner and let this reduce for just a little bit. So I've let that wine simmer into the garlic and the onions a little bit. Now at this point, we're just adding the tomato into the mix. Look how wonderful that looks. I'm going to stir that in. We're going to put it back on the stove, and I'm probably just going to let this simmer for the next 30 minutes. Okay, so we've been simmering for a while. You can see the steam coming out of here. So now all of these herbs, fresh herbs that I put together, these are just going to go right in here. And if you remember, we had fresh Italian parsley, flat leaf parsley, Greek oregano, thyme. I think the thyme I'm growing is technically German thyme, and then fresh sweet basil, and all that's going into this mixture. So we put this in at the end because we don't want it to cook into nothing, and you really want the bites of herb to be fresh and have a pop of flavor. So I'm setting this in here. It's going to go on the burner for just another couple minutes. Okay, we're back. You can see I have 5 mason jars here. Probably not enough, but it's all I own at this point. And we've got this big thing of marinara sauce here that we've now cooked up. Now, one of the things that is kind of important here, and not every recipe tells you to do this, but I've compared a lot of recipes, and a lot of people that do jarring or canning all the time say acidity is very important to the preservation process of this. So one way to do that is to use lemon juice, and not natural lemons because they're inconsistent and contain a lot of sugar. Natural juice in a container like this has a consistent acidity that comes with it, and this is the recommended way to do this. But really, we're just going to put a little bit on a tablespoon here and put that in the bottom of the jar. So not much, because you don't want your sauce to taste like lemon, but we need enough for the acidity to preserve this. So we're just going to do it like this. And let's see if we can pour without making a mess. We're making a mess. So you're in a jar. We'll wipe that. So I've got lids here. They're clean. You don't want to touch the inside. You basically want to flip this over and screw this on. So these are mason jars and they're screwed tight. So you've got a really nice seal here. And here's a jar of marinara sauce. So the next step is we're going to go into the sink. We're going to put these in a water bath and cool them down and help the process move a little faster so it doesn't form bacteria. So that's it. I filled all my jars and the recipe was perfect. I've got beautiful marinara sauce in my jars. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these here, so we'll probably eat a couple and give a couple away to friends. But super easy, one hell of a Friday night, I gotta tell you. And I think that you'll enjoy this recipe, and please feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Manja.